person is encountering adversity, I mean, Yisurim literally means like affliction or suffering, but what we will more globally translate it as adversity. Barosh Barishona, I love livdok es atzmo. So I said this is amazing. The first thing a person has to do is to check themselves. To check themselves. What does this mean? Imhu merutza me'atzmo, imusanech mechalko. Am I happy with who I am and happy with my lot? Chayev kol adam liros es hatov shebo, es hayofi shebo, es hanakulos hatovos shelo, es hamitzvos shelo, es hamidos hatovos shelo, es harachmanos shelo, es haratzon hatov shelo, shumali beretzonos tov. It was such a profound idea. It is exceptionally important for a person to see the good he possesses, the beauty he possesses, the good attributes he possesses, the mitzvos he's performed, the positive character traits he has, the rachmanos, literally a sense of compassion, the ratzon hatov, the goodwill he possesses. In other words, in life, a person is supposed to go ahead and see their good qualities. So this is a very important episode, and this was one of the incredible things that Hasidus in general focused, that sometimes other streams did not. In other words, in the world of the way we look at ourselves, there's a fundamental dispute. There's almost like there are more than two, but I'll call it for now 2 schools of thought. The first school of thought says that you focus on shiflos ha'adam, lowliness of man. That man's job is to say, I'm nothing, look how lowly I am, I've sinned, and this, it's called shiflos ha'adam. And the goal is that if a person focuses on their lowliness, that they will realize how much they have to grow, how much they have to do, and ultimately will try to affect change. There's a second school of thought called Gadlus Ha'adam. In Gadlus Ha'adam, man focuses on his greatness. Man focuses on what he's accomplished and says to himself, now that I see all that I have accomplished and all that I've done, I recognize how much more I am truly capable of doing. That's Gadlus Ha'adam. So Shiflus Ha'adam versus Gadlus Ha'adam. So Hasidus, in general, places an incredible emphasis on Gadlus Ha'adam. The pathway to growth is paved by recognition of one's personal greatness. Understand how great you are, understand how much you've accomplished, and through that you will understand how much you can accomplish, and that will be the catalyst for growth. Chaber Singh over here will say something exceptionally truly amazing. When a person suffers adversity, a person undergoes challenge. So the first thing the Mechaber posits that a person should look at is, am I happy with who I am? Now, I want to be clear about something. Happy with who I am doesn't mean that I'm happy with who I am, and therefore, again, I'm leveling out. I'm not going anywhere. Happy with who I am means I feel pride in what I have accomplished, but I recognize that there's so much more that I have to do. So when a person suffers adversity, the first step, posits the Mechaber, is introspection, examination about the good I possess. What have I done that's good? How am I happy with myself? What are the things I can build on? In reality, if you go down deep into my heart, one will find I don't want to do any bad things. The idea is, ideally, I don't want to sin. Page Kuvvav. So rather, again, my ultimate goal is to live in accordance with God's will. So we'll say, you understand what's happening over here? I would venture to say that this is dramatically different than anything you've ever learned. It's dramatically different than anything I've ever learned. And I think it's just an incredible approach. So the Mechaber is saying over here, again, let's be clear, what's unfolding over here? Person encounters adversity. Person encounters challenge, Yisurim. The Mechaber says the first step, your Yisurim, unraveling your adversity, and trying to make sense of it and trying to grow from it, the first step is see the good in yourself. Well, we'll see why this is necessary. See the good in yourself. What are your positive character traits? What are your spiritual accomplishments? What are the mitzvos you have done? What are the positive midos you possess? Are you happy with who you are? Do you believe that deep down Your ratzon is to do good, to be good, to grow. Sivosa, you understand where he's going with this. What he's going with this is adversity could only become a catalyst for growth if you believe in yourself. And belief in yourself stems from the ability to see the good within yourself and to recognize your beautiful spiritual accomplishments up to this point. Ki Adam, listen to this bolded line, page Kuvav. Ki Adam she'ena roa es hayofi shalatzmo. We'll say if a person doesn't see his own personal beauty, hu lo yachol lahamin b'Hashem yisbarach. Well, this is an incredible idea. If you don't see your own personal beauty, you can't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You can't believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Borei olam omer lechol echa mehanivraim shelo. Now, by the way, it's a very strong statement. There are plenty of people that don't have difficulty seeing the beauty in themselves. They don't believe in God. We'll have to define what that means. So watch this. Borei olam omer lechol echa mehanivraim shelo. Ribbon Shalom says to us, to each of us, his creations. Bini hayakar. This is HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaking to us. My precious son, le'is ata, afa pi sheyish lecha harbe malatakim, ani merutze mimcha kimoshata. This is so beautiful. The Rebbe Shalom says to us, my dear child, even though you have a lot you have to fix. That's speaking to us. Even though you have a lot you have to fix, I want you to know that I love you. Ani mispire b'cha. We'll say, by the way, this I love you as you are is an incredible way. So, they always say, like in marriage, never marry someone for the person you think they can become. But marry them for who they are. Because if you marry someone for who you think they can become, and for some reason, they don't become that person, either because they didn't try or perhaps your perception of them was wrong, that could unfortunately create a whole bunch of, a whole cacophony of marital stress. So therefore, again, the Mechaber says over here, the emotional with us. This Baruch says, I want you to know, I love you the way you are. I love you the way you are. I rejoice over you. The Rosh says, I love you the way you are. I love you the way you are. I believe in your ability to become greater. And I just want you to know that everything I do to you, with you, for you, is only to help you improve. So now you begin to understand what's unfolding over here. I'm suffering with Yisrael, suffering with adversity. I need to figure out a way how to grow from this adversity, how to somehow see what's embedded in this adversity to allow me to self-actualize. These are all the different things I have to do. The Mechaber says, in order to do that, I have to start first with the recognition of my own good. I'm a good person. I try. And let's go through the ways in which I am good. Because when I recognize that I'm good, then I recognize that what? HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves me, not just for the man I can become, but for who I am right now. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves me for who I am right now, then the events that are unfolding around me are some way, somehow a manifestation of divine love, is some way, somehow HaKadosh Baruch Hu's his interaction, intervention in my life is somehow, some way to help me advance myself. But I can only believe that if I love myself, because it's only if I love myself that I can believe that God loves me where I'm holding right now in life. You have to love just God in life in general. You have to love yourself before you could expect others to love you. And by the way, that's true when we say others means other people, but other even means HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Rebbe Shalom says to us, God says, I love you. I love you, God says, so why don't you love yourself? I rejoice over you. Why do you not rejoice over yourself? I literally mispar b'cha means I glorify myself through you. So why don't you see your own glory? I, God says, am willing to give you time to self-actualize. I, God says, am able to go ahead and give you the opportunity to develop yourself. So why are you always so down on yourself? Why are you always beating yourself up? Why don't you believe that I, God, love you? Why are you sad? if you truly believe that I have the ability to help you in all circumstances, lama atam yuash, why have you given up in life? Do I lack the ability to help you in your current circumstance? I want you to be happy. I want you to rejoice. And I want you to reflect on all of the ways I've helped you until this day. See all that I've done for you up until this day. And afterwards ask me to help you more. Last paragraph, page Kuf Vav. Yotze. So both say, it's amazing. Listen to this. It turns out, therefore, that the first thing for which we are judged is our emunah. Because when a person is sad, or when a person beats himself up, redifa ha'atzmis means literally you're rodef yourself. You beat yourself up over things. Vadikaon v'hamir, more depression, sadness. Heim chisaron emunah. We'll say, you hear this idea? I have to tell you, I must have read this line about 15 times because it's so antithetical to the way many of us have learned and have kind of been Judaically or hashkafically programmed. This idea being that ultimately a person has to love themselves. A person has to love themselves. A person has to see the good in themselves, even when they fail. A person has to have emunah in himself. Because when I get depressed and I give up and I beat myself up, then that's a lack of emunah. A lack of emunah in what? A lack of emunah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves me as I am. Now, God wants me to be better. God wants me to grow. God wants me to improve. God wants me to change. But it's amazing. That divine love is not dependent or is not withheld until I become the person I need to be. That divine love is here even now. And I have to believe that. Therefore, again, if I become depressed over my life actions, if I become depressed over my plight, if I become depressed because I'm not the person I want to be, that's a lack of emunah. Let's finish up this paragraph. Therefore, if a person truly believed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is standing over him, and he hears everything that's coming out of my mouth, listens to my tefillos, so we will say there would be no sadness, no heaviness, no laziness in my tefillos. Person would daven in the right way. We'll say a person would feel empowered to go ahead and ask for what he wants, do what he needs, and ultimately again take charge of his life. So we'll stop over here. We'll pick up Emeretz Hashem with the top of Kuf Zayin tomorrow. But understand again the profound concept that we're focusing on right now, which is this incredible yesod that in order to maximize my adversity, I know that sounds like a strange statement, in order to maximize my adversity, in order to go and ensure that I grow from my life challenges, I have to first begin with the belief and a love of the self. Because only if I believe and love myself where I am right now, then I believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves me. And if I believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves me, then I believe that all that happens to me in life is a manifestation of that divine love in order to help me to self-actualize. So we'll stop over here. We'll pick up Emeretz Hashem, top of Kuf Zayin tomorrow morning. What's that? All right, you both say good morning. Let's begin. Our shir this morning is dedicated by Art Miller in the merit of Refuah Shalema for his wife Sherry Shana Rachel Basfreda. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, Sherry will have a complete and enduring refuah. All right, well, so let's begin. So we have a beautiful daf ahead of us today. Today is Kuf Samech Hey, And remember, I told you yesterday, we're starting off Mamish with an incredibly beautiful Gemara as well. We're starting Kuf Sam, it's 165 this day. We're starting off 164b. Kuf Sam on the base, 3 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav said the following: Shalosh averos ein adam nitzol mehem b'chono. We'll say there are 3 averos. It's actually a very strong statement. 3 averos from which a person, literally translated, a person is not saved every day. Which also means there are 3 averos that a person transgresses each and every day. What are the 3 averos a person transgresses every day? So the Gemara says, Hirhur avera. So what's a Hirhur avera means thought of sin. Now, thought of sin, now what does that mean? Remember again, the good news is, if you think about sinning, it doesn't count. Baruch Hashem. Right? So if I hear her avera, as opposed, by the way, to hear her mitzvah, thinking about doing a mitzvah, one does get some credit for that. Hear her avera, one is not held accountable. So it's right. The word hear avera means is inappropriate or impure thoughts. For impure thoughts, there is accountability. The understanding of Chazal ultimately is that it's impure thoughts that ultimately, again, lead to impure actions. So obviously, it's not the same as committing the Avera itself, but there is a level of liability for the thoughts I have. Therefore, the Rav says, every single day a person is nichshel and hear Avera. So we'll say, what's Iyun Tefillah? Take a look at the Rashbam. The Rashbam says, Iyun Tefillah, last line of Kuf Samech Daled Amud Beis. So there are some who explain that after a person davens, he says to himself, the Ribono Shalom should really grant my tefillah. So also Iyun Tefillah means the person says, I daven with so much kavanah, the Ribono Shalom has to grant my prayer. So that's called Iyun Tefillah. Literally, again, examining one's prayer too closely. A certain level of what we'll call, liturgical entitlement, where a person feels that because they've davened with kavanah, therefore, again, they deserve to have their request granted. So we'll say, remember again, I daven with kavanah, a person has davened with kavanah, and it's up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu whether he grants the tefillah or not. At the end of the day, that's going to be up to him, and there are many other factors that go into that as well. So a person who's a Bal Gaiva and thinks that because he davened with kavanah, his tefillah should be answered, that's not there. That's called Iyun Tefillah. Tosas has a little bit of a different interpretation. Tosas says, if you look, it's on Tosas Iyun Tefillah, right in the middle of that Tosas, right after the little vav in parentheses. Your Tosas says, V'nira l'Rebbe, the Iyun Tefillah, Shura, Shin Mechavne b'Tefillah. Iyun Tefillah also means a person who davens without kavanah. So according to the Rashbam, it's a person who davens with kavanah and therefore expects that his tefillos ultimately will be answered. According to Tosas, it's a person who davens without kavanah. Okay? And last one, the Lashon Hara. And Lashon Hara. So we'll say everybody speaks Lashon Hara every single day. Now remember again, the tie-in to this sugi is just Lashon Hara sugis we had yesterday. So the Gemara says, Lashon Hara Sakadayitcha, really? Is that true? That people speak Lashon Hara every single day? We'll say it's not true. Meaning again, to go through a day without some type of improper thought, it's probably impossible. To go through a day where a person either doesn't daven with kavanah according to Tosas, or a person thinks that they're entitled to something because of their tefillos, probably impossible. And a person could go through a day without speaking Lashon Hara, to which the Gemara says, top of Kuf Samechei, Elo, Avak Lashon Hara. Right? The Gemara says, you're right. You can go through a day speaking about not speaking Lashon Hara, but I will say it's almost impossible to avoid Avak Lashon Hara. What does Avak Lashon Hara mean? Look at the Rashbam. Kigon de Amri, Nura Be Planya Be'erchet. So we'll say, the Avak Lashon Hara goes back to our sugya yesterday, where sometimes a person could say something that is potentially positive, but through those positive words, ultimately, again, it opens the door for some type of negative or slanderous type of lashon. So in other words, what the Gemara is saying over here is, it's almost impossible to go through a day thing that opens the door to lashon hara. That's the avak lashon hara. That ultimately, again, it's not lashon hara directly. So he gives the example, by the way, quotes the Gemara that a person says, Ploni so-and-so always has a candle lit in his home. Now, the reason I would be saying that is because to say he's always machnes archim, he's very hospitable. So you can understand ultimately, again, how that can open the door for, he has so much money, he's so wealthy. And then, of course, the next statement after that is, Why didn't he give so much to the Avas Yisrael charity campaign? Let's give him a plug over there, right? But you could go ahead and you could open up. You sometimes by saying something seemingly positive, you can go ahead and just open the door for so much negative speech. So we'll say that's avak lashon hara. I'm not who damarav. So we'll say, listen to this. This is amazing Gemara. Rov begezel. We'll say most people steal in some way. Look at the Rashbam. What does it mean, rov begezel? Rov b'nei adam chashudin ala gezel. Most people are suspect of theft. Kein gezel shemorim lehatera b'masu u'matan la'akiv ish mirevach haray lo v'chavira. Now both say, the Gemara says most people cheat. What is that? Most people steal, I should say, excuse me. Most people steal, we'll say, more often than not in a business setting. And when a person feels entitled to certain profits, they will cut certain corners, even if ultimately, again, that causes a loss to someone else. Now, again, I will say the incredible part is very often it's easy to justify some of those things as business, right? But so obviously sometimes it's business. But other times, again, it's really not business. Other times, again, it borders a bit more on unethical or inappropriate business practices, which Chazal call theft. Therefore, again, but because, again, it's so easy to be more heter, so easy to justify it as, I'm just a tough businessman, so therefore, again, many people are nichshol in it. So actually, it's a very strong warning of rov begezel. Most people, majority of people, engage in some type of what we'll call business-related or I should say income-related theft. Umiyot barayos, a significant minority of people engage in immorality. So you have to understand, miyot means minority. But in halacha, the Rishonim bring this down. In halacha, when there's a miyot hamatzei or miyot she'ena matzei. Miyot she'ena matzei means an insignificant minority. In halacha, an insignificant minority doesn't even exist. When if a minority is going to be mentioned, it means that it's a miyut hamatzoi. It means that it's a significant minority. So when the Gemara says miyut barayos, it means a significant minority of people engage in immorality. We'll say, so first of all, understand over here what Rav is saying. We'll say is to a certain degree, just sometimes we'll say when we make mistakes in life. So sometimes part of the crippling parts of mistakes is thinking that, oh my gosh, I'm such a Rasha. No one ever does things like this. And what Rav is saying about statements like this pave the way to tshuva. Because again, rov begezel, okay, most people are nichshol in some type of business-related theft. Miyut barayos, a significant minority of people suffer. So, that's not a good thing, but it's a good thing in that if it happens to me, I'm not some abnormal individual. I'm not some aberration. I'm a human being. And as such, again, because this is quote unquote, this happens, but because it happens, I have the ability to rehabilitate myself. The Gemara says, and everyone speaks Lashon Hara. So the Gemara says, is that true? Meaning, what bothers the Gemara about this is it's not true. A person could avoid speaking Lashon Hara. Ela avak Lashon Hara. Rather, again, what it means is, even if a person is able to avoid speaking real Lashon Hara, it is almost impossible to avoid speaking this avak Lashon Hara. Fine. Says the Gemara. Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer hakol k'minhag Medina. So let's remember again. Reb Shimon Gamliel said, in terms of a get pashut or a get makusher, everything is in accordance with the minhag Medina, the law of the land. So the Gemara said, "V'tana kamo less than minhag Medina." Now both say, remember again, the Mishnah was talking about going ahead and making a pashut into a makusher, and a makusher into, or I should say, just a makusher into a pashut. Excuse me. So Reb Shimon Gamliel said everything is in accordance with the laws of the land. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. And the Tanakama doesn't subscribe to that idea, hold of Minhag Medina, to which the Gemara says, Rav Ashi, this is what it means to say. But it's actually quite interesting. So the Gemara says the following: Rav Ashi, Va'asra dinihigi pashet, va'amrli avid pashet, va'azal avid lemakusher peda. If I tell a sofer, right, I'm living in a place where we don't write get makusher, gite makusher. Rather, we only go ahead and write a get pashet, a straightforward document. And I tell the sofer, write for me a get pashet. And what happens? The sofer goes ahead and writes a makusher. Then kapeda. I will say then the sofer is in violation of my wishes. The sofer is in violation of my wishes, and ultimately, again, the shlichus, the document is void. Good morning, Mr. Schoenfeld. So the Gemara says the following. Next, Avili Pashat, Avili goes fine. Nigi Makusher. So we'll say if I live in a city, to go ahead and write a get Makusher. And what happens? Va'amrli Avili Makusher. And I tell the sofer, write for me a get Makusher. Va'azal Avili Pashat. And the sofer goes ahead and writes for me a get Pashat. So Kpeda. Then ultimately what? Then it's clear about say that I was making. In other words, if you live in a place where they write a Makusher, I told the sofer to write a makusher, and the sofer violates. He does not follow the terms of my request. He's in violation of the agency, and the document is void. So also, all the Gemara is saying over here is, if you live in a place where a certain type of document is written, and you ask the sofer to write that certain type of document, that means you are makbid, right? You are makbid. You only want him to execute the agency in that particular way. Keep ligi. So we'll say, where does the argument come up? Or let's say, I live in a city where we write both types of documents, a get makusher and a get pashat. And I tell the sofer, write for me a get pashat. And what happens? And instead of, I'll say, what does he do? He writes a makusher. So what's the halacha? Mar savar kpeda. So we'll say, ultimately, again, the Tanakama says, since I told him to write a pashat, that means what? What do I want? If I tell him to write a pashat, then I want a pashat. Umar Savar, Mara Makom Hulo. Rabbi said the other opinion says that Lamaisa is just a Mara Makom. Rabbi said, what? Thank you. What does Mara Makom mean? We're always siphoning air conditioning from somewhere. We're jerry rigging something. So the Gemara says the following. The other opinion says Umar Savar Mara Makom Hulo. Well, so the other opinion says like this: that if I live in a place where I tell the sofer, if I live in a place where they write a get makusher and they get pashat. They write both. And I tell the sofer, write a get pashat. So we'll say, the Reb Shimon Gamliel says, what I'm doing is I'm telling the sofer, listen, feel free to execute this agency in the easiest way possible. The easiest way possible is how? Is ultimately, again, a get pashat. But if the sofer chooses to execute the agency in a more complicated fashion and write a get makusher, that's absolutely fine. So we'll say, this is going to be exceptionally important machlokas. We're going to build on in just a moment. But here's what we have. See, if I live in a city where it's clear that we only write certain types of documents, So then halacha l'maisa again, when I tell the sofer to write that document, he's bound to follow that type of agency. However, if I live in a place where ultimately, again, they write both types of documents, and I tell them to write a pashut, then Abu Sayyid Tanakama says, if he writes a makusher, the agency is void. Rav Shimon Gamliel says, no, if I tell him to write a pashat, it's Mara Makom. I'll say Mara Makom is literally I'm giving him basic instructions. But I give him the right if he wants to complicate the agency and work harder and write them a kusher instead of a pashat, that's absolutely fine. Amar Abaye, Rav Shimon Gamliel, Rav Shimon Elazar, Kulu Svirlu, Mara Makom. So also Abaye says that Rav Shimon Gamliel, Rabbi Shimon, and Rabbi Elazar all agree to both say that there are circumstances and agent instructions that you don't mean that the agent has to follow those instructions to the T. Rather, you're just giving the agent a mara makom. We'll say mara makom means you're giving him basic instructions, right? The basic outline of your wishes, but he also has the right to go ahead and execute the agency in a way that is easier or more beneficial to him. What does this mean? For example, the Gemara says, makom. Once again, this is a very yesodistic machlokes. When the principal gives the shaliach instructions, right? So how do we view those instructions? Are those instructions explicit? Am I saying to the agent, execute the task in the following way, and if you deviate from my instructions, even one iota, so the agency is null and void? Or am I saying, listen, I'm giving you a general framework for the execution of this agency, but giving you some level of, we'll call it agent discretion to figure out how to carry out and execute this agency. So Rabbi is now saying, Reb Shimon, Rabbi Elazar all hold, when you go ahead and you engage an agent, you give him some level of discretion in the execution of the agency. How do we see this? Well, let's listen to this. So the Gemara says, Reb Shimon Gamliel Hadamas. So what's Reb Shimon we just said? That's the case of where I live in a city where they do a pashat and I'm a kusher. I tell him to do a pashat. He does him a kusher. The shtar is still fine because I give him the discretion. Next, Reb Shimon will say? This man, Reb Shimon Omer Hita l'Shavach Harizim Mikudeshes. So Rabbi Shimon says that, let's say again, a man says to a woman, go ahead and become a kudeshes to me with a silver dinar. And what happens? A woman sends her agents to go ahead, and she says to the agent, be makabel the silver dinar from Ruvain for my kiddushin. And what happens? The agent shows up, and Ruvain gives him gold dinar. So the halacha is she's still mekudeshes. I should say, Reb Shimon says that she's still mekudeshes. Why? Because the Lamai says, as long as the mistake, quote unquote, is to her benefit, then ultimately, again, the kiddushin will still be good. See, even though, again, she told the agent, accept on my behalf the silver coin, he has the ability to say what she meant is accept an item of value, not less than silver. But ultimately, again, if it's gold, it's going to be good as well. What's Rabbi Lazar say? This time, let's listen to this. A woman says to an agent, to her shaliach, be makabel my get, in Baltimore. And what happens? He's makabel the get in Washington, D.C. So what's the halacha? I will say puzzle. Tanakama says ultimately again the get is puzzle. Why would the get be puzzle? So on the most basic level, because the agent deviated from the terms of the agency, right? She told him to be makabel the get in Baltimore. He was makabel the get in Washington D.C. So if the Rashbam, by the way, says if you look right to the right on the Rashbam puzzle, shehi ina rotzel his baishamakamachar. Because it could very well be that when she says to the agent, accept my get in Baltimore, because it's embarrassing for her to receive the get, she's only willing to have it done in Baltimore, not in Washington, D.C. Therefore, if he goes ahead and he deviates from the terms of the agency, the get is kosher. Rabbi Lazar Machshir. Rabbi Lazar says no, that ultimately, again, it's kosher. We'll say why. Because Rabbi Lazar holds that when the woman tells the agent, be makabel my get in Baltimore, what is she doing, Rabbi say? She's trying to make it easier on the agent. So you don't have to run around finding my nudnik of a husband. You can find them in Baltimore. But Lamaisa, what she really means is what? Be makabel my get wherever you find my husband. Right? So again, whether it's in Baltimore, wherever it is, but she's trying to make it easier by giving him an address. So the Gemara says, Mar Savrak Peda, or Mar Savrak Maramakum. But Tanakama holds that when she says Baltimore, she's makbid on Baltimore, versus Rabbi Lazar holds that what? That it's a maramakum. That ultimately, again, she is giving him a general location, but doesn't mean ultimately, again, dafka that location. Fine. So I'll say, so the point of here is, and you see, this is an ongoing dispute in these kinds of cases. When someone appoints an agent and gives the agent instructions, are those instructions ultimately viewed as explicit instructions from which the agent is not permitted to waver, or do we say marav makom? Marav makom also means this is just a general overview, a general set of, like marav makom literally means I'm giving you directions. So you know where to look, you know where to start, but you're not bound by this construct. The fascinating machlokes. So it goes weiter. So let's remember again, the Mishnah then ended by saying the following, that if you have a get pashit, in which there's only one witness, the get is puzzle. And if you have a makusher, remember a makusher is supposed to have 3 witnesses. If you have a makusher that has only 2 witnesses, so the document is puzzle as well. So the Gemara says, Bishlam a makusher, shek shnei edin puzzle. So I understand a makusher, right? I understand if you have a makusher that has 2 edim, let me see differently. I understand the Mishnah's need to teach me that if you have a makusher that has 2 edim, the get is puzzle. Why? If you're sakadai chamina hoel ba'ama kasher, hachanami kasher, kamashlan the puzzle. Because we'll say, I would have thought that if a makusher only has 2 witnesses, I could have made the argument that what? That the makusher should be what? Should still be kasher. Why, Abosai? Because under normal circumstances, 2 witnesses on a document are machshir the document. So I would have said as much as a makusher normally needs 3, but b'diavad if you have 2, it should still be kasher. Kamashmalon no. Kamashmalon that lemaisa again, if a makusher only has 2 witnesses, the document is puzzle. They will say if you have a get pashit, right, a regular document, then ultimately again only has 1 witness, in it. Then I will say it's pashit that the document is puzzle. Why is it pashit? I will say why pashit? Because you have 1 witness. There's no such thing as any document that's going to be valid with 1 witness. So why does the Mishnah have to say that? Rabbi, listen to this. The 8 echad bepeh. Oh, let's listen to this. Sabai says, what's the case? So we'll say the case ultimately is where you have one witness in writing and one witness who is willing to verbally testify that the document ultimately is authentic. Take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. Amra Baylo Nitzrucha, Lemisni Eid Echad Pashat Pasal, Ela Hechad Kimisayela Eid Echad Balpeh. Va'asam Asnisin Ashmoin and Lo Samchina Nashtar Litrof Milakuchos, Dishne Eidim Aksu Bishtaru de Mafkile, Lakala, Kimilva Alpeh. The Tarfa Bibne Chorin, Kedin Hamaves Chavera Be'edim Below Shtar. So we'll say, listen to this. So halacha, what Abai is suggesting is the following. The Mishnah is coming to teach me that if you have a document that has one witness signed on it, and one witness ultimately, again, verbally of testifying that the document is valid. So Abai says, Rabbi, such a document will be valid. In other words, it upholds the transaction. But if you're, let's say it's a loan document, the lender cannot collect from the chasim mishubadim. Cannot collect from properties that the borrower has sold since the date of the transaction. What's the reason for that, say? Because the only time that a lender could collect from sold properties is when the loan was recorded in a document. Because the document has a call, it generates a noise, generates a publicity about the transaction. Therefore, the person who purchases the property is going to realize that he's purchasing encumbered properties. But that call is only generated when you have two witnesses who sign on the document. If you only have one witness who signs and one witness who's verbally attesting to the transaction, then that does not generate the call. Doesn't generate the call. So if I will say, Abai saying the chiddush of the Mishnah is, I will say that what? That even if you go ahead and you have a document, you have one witness who signs a pasha, one witness who signs on it, one witness who goes ahead and verbally testifies as to the authenticity of the document. So the loan, I will say, the transaction is upheld. But with such a document like that, you cannot collect from the chasim mishubadim. Ameimar, so the Gemara says, Ameimar, achshe be'ed echad, b'ksa be'ed echad apeh. Ameimar Abosai held that a document that has one witness signed on it and one witness testifying balpeh, one witness giving verbal testimony about it, ultimately, Ameimar says such a document is a valid document. Look at the Rashbam. Ameimar achshe be'ed echad b'ksav, u'ksav yodo mekuyim imokom acher be'edim. So now after Abai just finished saying his piece, the Gemara says, by the way, Amemar argues, and Amemar says that if you have a document with one witness signed and another witness giving verbal testimony about the authenticity of the transaction, Amemar says that is a bona fide transaction, and the lender could even collect from encumbered properties. So Rashi said to Amemar, so Rashi says, but what do you do with Abai's opinion? Abai said that such a document is not a valid. In other words, the transaction stands, but you can't collect from the chasim mishubadim. So Amalei lo shmieli. So Meimar said, "Oh, I never heard Abai's opinion." To which the Gemara said, what that means is kolomar lo svirali. So what Meimar was really saying was, "I've heard it, I just don't agree with it." Ella kashya masnisin. Rabbi say ultimately again. So what do we do with the Mishnah? So remember again, the Mishnah said that lamaisa. A pashit, if you have a get pashit and you only have one witness signed on it, so the get is going to be, the document is going to be possible. To which the Gemara says, Masnisin akamash malon tishnayim b'makosher ke'eit echad b'pashat. I will say rather what it's teaching us is the following: that two witnesses on a makosher are like having one witness on a pashat. What does that mean? Mahasam psula d'oraisa, avhachanayim psula d'oraisa. I will say just like lamaisa, if you have only one witness on a get pasha, so the document is pasal min da'oraisa. We'll say so over here. What da'oraisa means is clearly the document is invalid. So just like we know that for da'oraisa you need two witnesses. So we'll say just like if you have a get, if you have a document that only has one witness, that document is pasal min da'oraisa. So too again, if you have a get makusher that only has two witnesses, it's pasal min da'oraisa. And we'll say that obviously that statement is not literal because a get to makusher is a dirabanan. Rather, what it means is the same way that a get pasha that only has one witness ultimately again is inherently invalid. So to a get makusher that only has two witnesses is inherently invalid as well. Teida the shalchu mitam. So let's listen to this. No, they sent from there Chavaria the Rabbi Yirmiyah. So let's say so the friends of Rabbi Yirmiyah sent him the following question. The Rabbi said, now listen to this. Why isn't Rabbi Yirmiyah in the base medrash? So if you look at the Rashbam says it's right across. Teda the Shalchulei, the Shalchulahu the Mitzdarf, and the Shalchulei Cham the Rabbi Yirmiyah. The Basra da'afkom v'Joshua. So we'll say they went ahead and they threw Rabbi Yirmiyah out of the base medrash. Kedar parak lo yachbar. Yirmiyah bein midrasha va'aldo I look at them in Maskan. But remember again, we actually learned this earlier that there was a series of different questions that Rabbi Yirmiyah was asking that the other Rabbanim were felt he was being a little bit of a nudnik. You know, we'll say there are two different ways that people ask questions. And there are more, but for our purposes. So sometimes a person wants to ask a question because they want the answer. Sometimes a person likes to ask a question because they like to hear themselves talk, like to ask a question. They want to chapter. They want to chapter. So we'll say, so this wasn't Rabbi Yirmiyah's intent, but it's Rabbi Yirmiyah came across. He came across ultimately again as shepherding with the questions. And as a result, they asked him to leave. Asked him to leave the base medrash. But it just, you should know, it's an interesting yesod in general, how, and this is true in educational realities as well, which is the needs of the collective always outweigh the need of the individual. So sometimes if the individual is just a nudnik, and the individual is just distracting, and the questions just are irrelevant and derailing, and just are taking away from the learning dynamic of the others, so sometimes that person just has to be extricated, not chas v'shalom discarded, but extricated just a bit in order to allow the rest of the learning dynamic to continue. An important yesod. In any event, that's what it means, shalchu mitam. They sent Rabbi Yirmiyah, right? Rabbi Yirmiyah was kicked out of the base medrash, right? But yet, interestingly enough, they still continue to communicate with him, right? They still continue to speak with him. Now we're going to see the good news. Don't worry. The story ends happily. Rabbi Yirmiyah comes back in. We're going to see that in just a little bit. So the Gemara says the following. They sent him the following question. So the Gemara says, so what was the question? What happens? So ask Rabbi Yirmiyah this question. Let's say you have a document. There's one witness who's signed on the document, and there's another witness who's verbally testifying to the authenticity of the document. Both said, do these two witnesses have the ability to combine? So the Gemara says, Aliba the Tanakam Rabbi Yishov Karcha, Lo Tiboy Lecha. The Tanakama Rabbi Yishov Karcha, there's no kasha. Why not? Dafilu Shnayim Biksav Ushnayim Alpeh Lo Mitzdarfi. So both said, Tanakama according to Rabbi Yishov Karcha holds that even if you have two witnesses who are signed or who have signed, let's say on two different ways, or two witnesses ultimately, both giving verbal testimony, they cannot combine. So I'll say if they can't combine when they're either both in print, this is what I say they sign at two different times, let's say, or they're both giving verbal testimony. If they can't combine in that case, then it's clear that that they can't combine when one is giving testimony in writing and one is giving testimony verbally. So where does the question come up? I'll leave with Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. According to Shimon Karcha, what does Shimon Karcha say? Because he says, Shnayim b'ksav u'shnayim al peh hu d'mitzdarfi. Because what Shimon Karcha holds, that if you have two witnesses in writing, where Rabbi says this witness is signed independently, they could combine. Or two witnesses are giving verbal testimony, they could combine. So when do we say that, the Gemara says? Do we say, Shnayim b'ksav u'shnayim al peh hu d'mitzdarfi? Aval echad b'ksav ve'echad al peh lo mitzdarfinun? Do we say, Rabbi said that it's only if both are in writing? Or if both are giving verbal testimony, that they could combine. But if one is in writing and one is giving verbal testimony, they can't combine. Or perhaps perhaps again they have the ability to combine no matter what. So the Gemara says, Shalach. So also listen to this. Rabbi Yirmiyah gives a very self-effacing, humble answer. He says, Amar lahu, Shalach lahu, Ani kedesh shalachtem li. I am not worthy that you are sending your questions to me. But if you want to know my opinion, right, the opinion of your student is as follows. I do believe that the witnesses have the ability to combine, and that halacha l'maaseh, if you have one witness in print and one witness giving, meaning signed, and one witness giving verbal testimony, that they should be able to combine to form a testimonial unit. Amarle, anon haki masanin. So both say, so there's a different version of this exchange. The friends of Rabbi Yirmiyah sent him the following question. Shnaim sheidu gave testimony regarding a certain matter. Echad bebeis din zeh, ve'echad bebezdin ve'echad bezdin zeh ma'u she'avo bezdin eitzel bezdin v'yitztarfu. So let's say if you have individuals who went ahead and let's say gave testimony in front of 3 Batei Din. Do the judges of the Batei Din have the ability to combine and ultimately again uphold the testimony? To which the Gemara says, Aliba de Tanakama Rabbi Nasa Loti Bailacha. So according to the Tanakama Rabbi Nasa, there's no question. Tafilu Bechad Bezdin Nami Lamitztarfi. It won't work about so why? Because even witnesses who give individual testimony in front of the same Bezdin cannot be combined to form a testimonial unit. Elakiti Bailacha. So where does the question come up? Aliba de Rabbi Nasa. So according to Rabbi Nasa, do we say Bechad Bezdin Hu de Mitztarfi? It's only when the witnesses give their testimony in one Bezdin that they have the ability to combine to form a testimonial unit. But in 2 different Batei Din, the witnesses can't combine to form a testimonial unit. Or perhaps again there is no distinction. The Shalach Lahu, and Rabbi Yirmiyah sent back to them, the truth is, I am not worthy that you should send me this type of question. But here is the opinion of your student, Sheyitz Tarfu. I believe that ultimately, again, they should combine to form a testimonial unit. Fine. Mar Barchia Amar Haki Shalchule. Both say, so it's just different versions of the question that they sent to Rabbi Yirmiyah. So Mar Barchia says, this is what they sent. Shnayim She'idu Bebezdin Zeh. I will say, if you have 2 witnesses who testified in this Bezdin, then they go and they testify in a second Bezdin. And then it will say, the unwritten pieces, they go and they testify in a third Bezdin as well. So they've effectively testified in 3 same 2 witnesses testified in 3, but they did. Mahu sheyavo echamikol Bezdin the Itztarfu. We'll say here this interesting shaila. So let's say same 2 witnesses, Reuven and Shimon, testified in Bezdin Aleph, Bezdin Gimel. So we'll say here's the following kasha. Can you have one judge from each of those Batei Din essentially join together and form a Bezdin to uphold the testimony that was heard by the 2 witnesses? So each one of those judges in their own respective Batei Din heard this testimony. Can they come and form a Bezdin to uphold that which was testified before them? So the Gemara says, Rabbi Nassan, so it's according to Rabbi Nassan, it's not a kasha. Why? Hashta edim mitzarfin dayonim boy, because also Rabbi Nassan holds that witnesses can combine, certainly judges can combine. Elakiti boy, so where does the kasha come up? Aliba de Tanakam Rabbi Nassan. The kasha comes up also according to Tanakam Rabbi Nassan. How so? Because edim hu lo mitzarfinon. It's witnesses who don't combine about the mitzarfinon. We'll say first white line. But judges should combine, or perhaps again we don't make any such distinction. So Shalach Lu again, Rabbi Yirmiyah sends to them, I am not worthy that you sent me this question. But if you're asking, so this is the opinion of your student, Sheyitz Tarfu. That ultimately, again, I hold that the judges should combine to be able to form a Bezdin, ultimately to uphold the testimony. Ravina says, Hachi Shalchulei. This was the question they sent to Rabbi Yirmiyah. These are really interesting cases. 3 people go ahead. So 3 people went ahead and a Bezdin got together for Kiyum Shtaros. Right? They want to certify the Asharta, the handpick. They want to go ahead and certify the document. So what happens? So most like after this process, after they certified it, but before they had the opportunity to write up the certification, one of the judges died. So what's the halacha? The Gemara says, so when writing the certification, so we'll see here the interesting shayla, when writing the certification, does that written certification have to reflect that at the time of the writing of the certification, one of the judges had died? In other words, the ikra was that he was alive during the certification process itself. Now they just have to write the document. Does the written document have to reflect the death of one of the judges or not? So the Gemara says, do they have to write the Mosav Tlasa Havina? Olo, do they have to write, we started this process with 3, but now we are only 2? Or do they not have to write that? To which the Gemara says, Shalach Lu Rabbi Yirmiyah said, I am not worthy that you sent me this question. Ella, but but this is my opinion. The opinion of your student is that they have to write the following. The most of Tlas Sahabina, we ultimately, again, we certified this document in the presence of 3 judges. Bechad les have, and one is no longer. So they must reflect in this kiyum shtaras that what? That one of the judges died at the time or before the time of the writing of the opinion or writing of the certification. And it was a result, ultimately, again, of this episode. That he took Rabbi Yirmiyah back into the Beis Medrash. Now look at the Rashbam. Aldo Ailuhu Sheheshiv Lahem. 7 lines up from before it gets wide in the Rashbam. Aldo Ailuhu Sheheshiv Lahem Kehogen. Because Rabbi Yirmiyah answered in an appropriate way. Da Dafkua Shashal Shalo Kehogen. Raglo Achos Chutlitchum. Veraglo Achas Besochatchum. Va'adav Kom B'Midrash. Baraklo Yakbar. V'hashnu Dailos. We'll say they brought him back. Meaning they felt that the reason he was kicked out was because they felt that some of his questions were asked with a little bit of an arrogance. And when they now saw his self-effacing behavior, when they saw his more humble behavior, ultimately, again, they felt that he should be allowed back into the Beis Medrash. So as I suggest, the way we paskin is like a meimar, right? Namely, again, they're about to say if you have a document and you have 2 witnesses on that document, but one of those witnesses ultimately, again, is bichsav. One of them is writing, and one of them is Baal Peh. Those 2 witnesses have the ability to form together as a testimonial unit, and Lamaisa will be machshir, they will validate the shtar. And I will say that, to the point that what? To the point that halacha Lamaisa, even with such a shtar, the lender will be able to collect from the chasim mishubadim. He will be permitted to collect ultimately again from encumbered properties. Fine. Well, so let's begin the Mishnah. Another fascinating circle. Now here we're going to get into a shtar that has essentially contradictory statements. That's the issue over here. The shtar says different things that seem to be inherently contradictory. So watch this. Kasev bo zuzin meya di'inon sloin esrin. So let's say a person writes in the shtar, I lent Ruvain 100 zuz. There are 20 sela. Now we'll say 20 sela is in fact 80 zuz, not 100 zuz. So essentially, I have two different amounts recorded in the shtar. So one amount is 100 zuz, or I should say one amount is 100 zuz and one amount is 80 zuz. So which one ultimately again is the amount that I go with? To which the Gemara says, "Elo elo esrin zuzin." We'll say we go with the lower amount. And therefore, the document, right? I only have a claim of 80 zuz. So what the Mishnah seems to be saying is, whenever you have contradictory amounts in the shtar, we always go with the lower amount. Meya di'inon tlasin slun. So I'll say similarly again. If I say, owes me 100 zuz, which is 30 slun. So we'll say 30 slun is in fact 120 zuz. So once again, I have contradictory amounts. Is it 100? Is it 120? Eilo elamana. I only have a claim for 100. Kasev zuzin. So we'll say so again. So principle number 1 is that whenever you have contradictory amounts, you always go with the lower amount. That's number 1. Next, kasev zuzin di'inon. Well, so listen to this. Let's say in the document it says, Ruvain owes me kasev zuzin di'inon. That are, now listen, after that word di'inon, you normally have the amount filled in. Only one issue over here in this document, which is what? Which is that amount is erased, or that amount is illegible. So what do I do in a case where it says Kaz Zuzi Di'ino, but the amount is not there? Name Chaki was erased. Ein Pachos Mishtayim. So we'll say, I know at least that what? He owes me 2 Kasev Zuzin. Right? Why? Because Zuzin is plural. The minimum plural is 2. Sla'in Di'inon. The name Chak. Ein Pachos Mishtayim. Similarly, again, if it says Kasev Sla'in, right? He owes me silver slun, and again the amount is erased. He owes me at least 2 silver slun. Darkonos, he owes me darkonos, right? In the document it says he owes me darkonos in the amount of, and again it's erased. So we'll discuss why we need all of these examples, but the bottom line of both is what? Whenever it says that he owes me monies, but the amount ultimately is either illegible or erased. So the minimum amount of monies means what? 2 of the type of currency mentioned in the Mishnah. Kasav bo milamala mana umilamata masayim. This is interesting. Let's say again, as we will see, the amount that is owed is often written twice in the document. It's written in the beginning of the document and towards the end of the document. But so let's say in the beginning of the document it says that I lent Ruvain $1,000, and in the bottom of the document it says that I lent Ruvain. So now which one is it? So the Gemara says, or milamala masai milamatamano. On the top it says I lent him $2,000. On the bottom it says I lent him $1,000. The idea being is what? Is that the document records two different loan amounts. So we'll say, what do I do in that circumstance? What's that halacha? Hakol holech achar tachton. And we'll say in the document, the last number. So when we have a contradiction in amounts, what we look at, the guiding light is going to be the last amount mentioned in the shtar. That is going to be the binding amount. And the Gemara says, if that's the case, let's say if that's the case, that the binding amount ultimately again is the second one and not the first one. So why even write the first one? Because we'll say, even though again the second time that we'll call it the bottom amount that's listed is the authoritative amount, but it's kind of like a little bit of a fail-safe in case something happens to the first amount that is blotted out or it gets erased. At least you could always go back to the first amount mentioned in the shtar. All right, so we'll stop over here for today. We'll pick up in Mirat Hashem with the Gemara tomorrow morning.